Well, good morning, guys. Welcome to Sunday morning. You are joining us here at Rhema CC. I'm Lindy. I'm your Sunday morning host, and we are kicking things off. For the next few hours, we're going to hang out together. I hope that you're able to stick around and spend some time with me. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We were just listening to The Father's House, and obviously that was by Corey Asbury. Happened to be a bit of I'd say a bit of a, I kind of give him the big tick of approval with his music. I love his stuff. But as I said, time in, time out, there seems to be some really, really cool stuff coming up at the moment. Good Christian, clean content that's just one of the, I don't know about you guys, but I just love that I can just trust. I just trust that, when I flick the radio on, I just know that it's the clean stuff. I don't have to worry about anything. And certainly that song there that we just listened to, as along, lots of different songs we have here, all the different songs, they all kind of get that tick of approval before they're put to air. We want to make sure that those little ears in our lives hear all the right content, the right things, and things that are uplifting. Even for ourselves, I think sometimes we can kind of get a little bit, can get caught up in the lyrics of all sorts of things. I know I was out this week and I suddenly realised just how much I am quite content in my little Christian bubble. I was just out in a shopping centre and I heard all sorts of things and I suddenly thought, okay, I'm quite happy being in my Christian bubble and just having that real clear and concise and just, I don't know, it's a kind of pure sort of sound. When it comes to Christian radio, I know that I've got that. And so, yeah, absolutely. I just want to say a big thank you to those who go behind the scenes and pick the stuff that we listen to here at Rhema. I can list, I know there's a few guys, but in particular, Eben, I know that you do quite a bit of that stuff. And I just want to say thank you to you for, I guess, just keeping things safe, keeping our ears, what we're exposed to. Just if we choose to go Christian media, we know that we're getting the cleaner stuff, and it's all around a really good thing for us as adults, but our whole family. And I think that's a good lead into what we're talking about today, guys. It's been Families Week, and you guys, we talked about that a little bit last week as we were leading into it. For Sunday morning, we've been talking over the last few weeks about marriage and just different sort of elements of marriage, things to explore, but certainly the context in general of just celebrating marriage, because it is a gift. It is a special, it sounds almost cliche. I feel like I'm just stumbling on words here, but I just mean when we really think about marriage as it's supposed to be, not with our own sort of glasses on, where we've seen things from a perspective that might make us question whether or not it is. When we look at marriage as a union like God has actually intended it for it to be, it is something to be celebrated. So that's what we've been trying to do over the last few weeks. Just sort of obviously keep in mind that sometimes we have to sort of step up and do things differently if we are in marriages, or if we are someone who from the outside is not married but looking and thinking, I don't know if I would ever want to just be a part of that because it does not look good. Unfortunately, us people, because we are people, we have messed things up from time to time, and we forget that there is this beautiful union that God has created. And when we look at the families as a unit, obviously said, I just mentioned a moment ago, it's been Families Week, so it has been a time for us to celebrate and recognise families and just how powerful they are. But marriage is certainly a part of that, and it is nice to spend some time together on a Sunday morning recognising that and celebrating it. But things go wrong in marriages, don't they? They really do. And we would be lying to ourselves if we said they didn't. We look at the divorce rates across Australia, across the world really, and we realise that it's not easy. There are a lot of people who just find it just too hard. And so for us, if we are then going to flip our thinking and our drive to work out how to do things better in our own marriages, we've got to work out what's actually going wrong. And communication is one of the biggest things that has been found, from a statistical point of view, to be a contributor of the things that have gone wrong. So what if we use the same tool then to then flip our marriages, to bring things closer, to be able to make sure we are with our spouse more united on a better front when we're together as the whole idea of how God wants us to be, to draw to each other, to leave and to cleave. We've talked about that the last few weeks. But the real sense of union, of I am going to stick this out with you, I'm going to work things out with you, and I'm going to be mindful that communication can take me down a path, can take us down a path where we can find ourselves failing, we can find ourselves falling. So instead, let's utilize that, the knowledge of that communication can be a bit tricky, it can make things hard, and instead use communication as a really powerful tool to instead go to the hard places, do the things that are tough, and actually work on the stuff that really needs to be worked on. So we're talking communication this morning, guys. We're talking marriage, obviously, for this month, but we're talking communication. Let's keep talking things through. Let's be very aware of each other and what we need from each other. And we might even talk love languages, because there is some stuff in that too. But specifically, we're just, talking, a broad context of what communication is and what it actually means. So when we come back, guys, we'll chat some more about this. And this one's quite familiar to me. Obviously, we're having the welfare-y, counselling background. This one I sit comfortably in. Does not mean that I do it well in my own life. It just means that I know how things are supposed to be. Doesn't mean I necessarily apply it, but I have more of an idea from a theoretical perspective how it might, be a good thing. Anyway, guys, I'll see you soon. All right, see ya. And that was Unspoken, Just Give Me Jesus. That's a good way for us to start, really, isn't it? If we start the day with that notion, that idea, just give me Jesus, it's a pretty good way to kind of kick things off. Eyes on him, and let's work out how we can do our lives a little bit more, precisely, a bit more with, caution. If we think about how he is doing things, how he would do things, that would make things a little bit easier for us, you would think. Actually, that's what we've been talking about at my church in the last few weeks. Actually, you guys may be doing it too. There's a few churches, I think, that are sort of on this. But looking specifically at getting to know Jesus again and how powerful that is. But obviously, we've got to apply it ourselves too. We can know him. We can know all about him. But how do we live that and draw on his ways, the way that he role modeled to us, and constantly, we can observe that through the Bible as well. But yeah, we've got some stuff to do in that in ourselves. We can't just leave it all over to God and go, you do your thing. Although that's nice sometimes too, isn't it? Letting go. Yeah, anyway, it's a big thought. Guys, you're joining us here on a Sunday morning. So if you are getting up out of bed thinking, what day am I up to? It is Sunday. So welcome to Sunday mornings. Welcome to Rhema CC. I'm Lindy. I'm your Sunday morning host here each week. Well, I guess that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Each Sunday, each week. There is a Sunday in every week, so that does go together, hand in hand. But anyway, this month of May, we've been talking about marriage. Now, we've been talking specifically about how to strengthen our marriages, obviously recognizing that marriage is a beautiful union that God has created, and honoring that, and talking about how, from a biblical perspective, we can celebrate that it is a God-designed union. It's a really beautiful, I don't want to just use the word thing, but it's a beautiful thing that God has created. And, you look at how creation has taken place through that union, the biblical context, male, female, one female, how creation has taken place through that, and just how beautiful the whole birthing process is, and how God he just brings things together and he allows them to fit perfectly. And last week we talked about parenting or / mothering, because it was Mother's Day. A little bit kind of, there's a bit of a flip side of how we did things, but it just sort of fit with the month. Today we're going to talk about communication, and mainly because if you look at the statistical sort of stuff when it comes to divorce, relationship breakdowns, communication is right up there as one of or if not the top reason for why things go sort of AWOL in relationships, why marriages break down. It's been statistically noted as one of the big deals. It's one of those things that if we don't have communication going well, the frustrations can build, the tensions can build, the animosity, almost reason to shut down. If we don't feel like we're being heard, why would we bother talking? If we don't feel like, we are talking, but, and vice versa, we don't feel like when we are talking, we're being heard, what is the point in talking in that scenario either? I don't want to listen to you because it's too hard, or I don't want to talk to you because it's too hard. And we have so many different ways that we may be listening, so many different ways that we may be talking. It may be through behaviours, it may be through verbal, it may be through written. It may be through all sorts of different elements. And this is what, if we look at the 5 love languages, for example, that's an example there of how we might be trying to communicate to someone that we love, and we may kind of get it wrong. So if we look at someone who's, if you're a words of affirmation kind of person, I tend to be one of those. We are likely to get built up through the encouragement and the support of what other people speak into us. But if you're not someone like that, you're not necessarily going to note that as being important. So for you, it might be a case of, if somebody gives you something that is just like, oh man, this is tops. This is, I know this person really cares because they've given me something. Well, if you've got a marriage where you are not, those worlds aren't sort of colliding like they're supposed to, it can build tensions. So it is about knowing, obviously, your partner and how things work with them. Doesn't mean it's always going to be that way, because I think we can change. I think we can alter how we are spoken to, how our hearts can be treasured and respected. But it's just being mindful of that and being able to go with the flow, be willing to address those things that could change. And I think, I'm just going to go through really quickly what the 5 love languages are. For those who aren't familiar with it, it could be gift giving, it could be physical affection, it could be words of affirmation, it could be time, the time that you share together. Quality time is what they call it. And I have gone completely blank. What have I missed? Somebody should be able to tell me, I'm sure. It really has just, I haven't got it in front of me, and I've read that book a million times. But what am I? Quality time, and I don't know. It really has gone. I don't know. Give me 2 seconds while I'm just speaking to you guys. I'll look it up. 5 love languages. I don't know how I completely forgot that, but I have. Let's see. 5 love languages. Physical affection. And we have, let's see. I seriously don't know how I haven't, my brain is not really there today, but that's okay. I cannot believe that I have just, it's been a few days like this where my brain is just not quite there together, but I've also had a lot going on. So, what am I forgetting? Let's see. Acts of service. That's what it is. I knew there was something else, and honestly, my husband is one of those. He's a real hands-on guy. So I'll get home and the house is like, he's been and done anything, everything, and I'm just like, yeah, that's not my language, but I appreciate you doing it. But it just shows you, doesn't it? We are all different. Anyway, guys, it's something to be mindful of and something to be working on in our marriages. Acknowledge what your partner is doing for you. And if there's elements there you just think, yeah, that's not really speaking to me, find ways that are going to speak to them in that same way back, with sensitivity, with respect, and just say, it really means a lot to me when you do such and such. So you kind of fine-tuning between the two of you what actually speaks volumes of hope and appreciation. But that's just a simple tool. I'm going to leave it there because I know there's a lot in it this morning, and I just wanted to only cover that very briefly. We've covered that before here on a Sunday morning. Back in a couple of years ago now, we were talking a lot more specifically about that. So I didn't want to touch too much on it this morning, but it is something for us to be thinking about. When we come back, we'll talk more communication stuff, but I'll see you guys. Yeah, I'll see you then. Welcome back, Coasties. That was Need to Breathe with The Cave. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Rhema CC. I'm Lindy Jones. I'm your Sunday morning host, and it is, in fact, Sunday morning. So I hope you are ready for a fantastic day. Hope things are looking pretty bright and amazing out there, that you are, you got the big smile on your face, you're ready to go, all that sort of stuff. And if not, here is my big smile sending straight through the airwaves to you. I hope you're feeling that. Feeling the love through, from what we have here in these studios, going straight through to you, and that your heart is warmed, because honestly, you are very important And I just want to encourage you in that. It's the truth. Guys, we're talking marriage in the month of May. But before we get started, I just want to run through something with you guys, because you've probably worked out that legacy builders is something that we're quite excited about here at Rhema CC. Now, that's because it represents a major shift in how we fund your Christian radio station. And obviously it's from relying primarily on big appeals a couple of times a year to rebuilding or to building instead of a solid and sustainable monthly income stream. That's, going to make things easier. We believe that it's easy for you guys as our listeners and supporters, and also easy for us to manage our cash flow. Now, wouldn't you say that it's true that you can nearly always find $5 a week, maybe twice a week for a coffee? But to find $520 in one go, it's a lot harder. But yet it's the same amount when you really think about it. Now, that's the principle of monthly giving. Giving small amounts regularly is easier than giving larger amounts occasionally. So whether for you guys it's $100 a month, $50, or even $10, if that's, it's all important really when it comes down to it. So we'll start having our major appeals. It's actually coming up. So yeah, and the mid-year appeal will be coming soon. But there, obviously, if we're looking at the legacy builders, there'll be a lot less pressure on the big things, the big times, so the big targets, if you like, just to keep us operational. The appeals will then be able to focus on providing new and exciting services to you guys, our listeners, and better serving the whole body, the whole body of Christ, really. It just becomes, more, it makes more sense to me. I don't know if it does for you guys, but it does to me. So for you, if you're able to, become a legacy builder today, and you guys can call us on 674042, or obviously you can just visit rhema.cc and you can help us out. We'd love to have you guys jump on board with our legacy builders. We need you. It's a team thing. Anyway, guys, we are talking marriage. As I said, in May, we're talking marriage and how important it is. It's a pretty special union that God has designed. And we want to acknowledge that. We want to support it. We want to get behind the union that He has designed. And so we've been talking about things that go hand in hand with marriages. Now, I talked briefly this morning about the 5 love languages and how that can impact how we communicate with our spouse. We might miss the point. We might completely think we're communicating well, but really we're just communicating through the languages that we speak. So as an example here, you might be someone who appreciates physical affection. You might love the hug. You might love the physical touch, the sensations of knowing this person's with me. For your spouse, it may be a case of, no, don't do that. I just want to see that you're working behind the scenes. You've got the dishwasher filled. You've got the clothes washed, whatever. It doesn't matter. So you're talking different languages, and that can, if you are doing that without the intention or even the understanding that you've both got different ways that you communicate, it can become almost like crossroads. It can be a little bit like, I don't know, that doesn't mean anything to me. Why are you doing that? So yeah, we just have to be mindful of how our spouse operates and be mindful that they may be communicating love to us in what they know to be a loving act or a loving communication form, I guess, a communication style. But more than that, guys, I want to emphasize just how important it is to communicate in whatever way you can. Now, for me, and this is going to sound very strange for someone who's a counsellor or who has a background in, I've done lots of theoretical studies, but for myself, I would say that I am not very good at letting people in. And that definitely includes my husband. I think I have learnt to shut people out, and purely because I've had to, and you probably identify with that same thing. When you have been someone who has had to stand on their own 2 feet, perhaps time and time again, you've learnt that it's easier often to just do things by yourself and not ask for help. In recent months, I think I've been challenged on that because I've realised that, there have been times in my life where I have had to turn to God and go, I can't do this on my own, God. I need you. I do need you. But I also think I've been challenged in my own marriage because I have realised that I have to drop the guard and actually ask for help when I need it. And I'm not talking things like, can you help me with dropping the kids off here or whatever. That's important too. And those things do play a role in the long the long distance stuff, how we keep things going, the long haul, if you like. They're a part of life. They're a part of family life. They're a part of doing things well. But I'm talking the real stuff. I'm talking the stuff when your heart is hurting, when your mind is overwhelmed, when there's stuff there that you are carrying on your own, or you feel like you are, and actually being real about that. I've seen a movement in the last few years, really, that emphasizes the idea that it's okay to say when you're not okay. Now, that can come in all sorts of elements, all sorts of ways. But how do we do that? I think we are a society who just get on with it. And we tend not to say, this is the real deal. This is what's going on for me, especially, and it's terrible, especially to our spouse. I'm not sure what the reason for it is. I don't know if it's a thing on our own end where we have, it's almost like a pride thing. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I do think it's quite a common thing. I do think we struggle to be real with the people that we love most, which is weird. Maybe there's an element of fear in it. Maybe we're scared of being rejected. Maybe there's all sorts of things that could be playing into it. But we need to address it if we want to really get close to our spouse, if we want them to know us as well as we would like to know them. We're going to have to drop that guard and actually get real. We're going to have to go to those places that are hard. And I want to encourage you this morning, communication, guys, it's a big deal. I want to encourage you to get uncomfortable, to be uncomfortable with how you feel about yourself, about your situations, about the overwhelming experiences. Might be kids are just, too much. And rather than just going, oh, this is just too hard, it's a season, be real and just say, to your spouse, I'm really struggling here. I need you just to hear me on this. And there is some seriously powerful stuff when you know you've been heard. I would say that for so many years, I got so used to doing things on my own and just dealing with it on my own because it was easier to try. I didn't want to, obviously, you guys know that we're a ministry family. I thought I had to protect my husband from how I felt about things because in his world, and it would be the same thing for psychologists, for counsellors, for those who deal with real stuff, maybe the police force, there's real human connections. I think when it comes to the home life, there's almost, especially in the Christian sort of world, we try and protect each other. So we almost don't allow ourselves to be real with our spouse because we're trying to protect them from how we are actually feeling or the thoughts that we're having. And so that level of protection gets hard to manage because we're trying to protect ourselves and protect them. But what I would like to say is that we as a union are going to be stronger by being real. And we acknowledge that we are feeling a certain way. And that could be as simple as, I don't want to tell you this, whether it's husband or wife, because I actually am worried about I want to protect you. There's a reason why I don't want to tell you how I'm feeling because I'm trying to protect you. It can be as simple as just going there and just saying that, being honest. But I just want to encourage you guys, if there's stuff going on in your marriages, or if you're trying to protect your spouse because you don't want to hurt them, it can actually be something that actually separates more. So rather than bringing the bond closer, the two parties separate more. And welcome back, Coasties. That was If You Ain't In It by Danny Goki. Good morning. Welcome to Rhema CC. It's a delight to have you guys with us. I am Lindy. I'm your Sunday morning host here, and I am looking forward to the rest of, we've got about an hour together, and I'm looking forward to exploring some more things with you guys. We've been talking marriage this morning. We've been talking about marriage really for the last few weeks, and we will for the end of May. How many weeks is that? I think we're about halfway through. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, so yeah, we've been talking sort of along the lines of things that if we are married, to be, or perhaps we're engaged, or perhaps we're single, perhaps we're not even thinking about marriage, but we're looking at marriage from a different perspective. Sometimes we can be looking at things from the outside and getting an idea of what life might look like if we are kind of linked up to something, and that could potentially be marriage. And we may be exploring what that looks like. Now, obviously, for us as a Christian radio station, we tend to go back to why we are here, and we look at scriptural context of what marriage is. We look at all sorts of elements of society and the way that lives are lived, and we look at how scripturally we are encouraged to do life. Being Christian, it means that we want to make sure we go back to the fundamentals. What is God? What does He highlight as the way to do things and the way to explore life? And obviously we look at marriage and we see it from the beginning. In Genesis, if we look at the Bible, if you're literally just opening the Bible, from the very beginning there is this context of marriage where he highlights just how important it is for those who are pursuing and committed to a Christian marriage. The context of one man leaving and one woman leaving their pasts, their ways, what was, and cleaving to the new ways with their spouse. It's about them exploring life together as one being and one, like a sense of unity that's just so strong. So that's a really brief introduction to what we've been covering in the last few weeks. But doing that can be really, really hard. Life happens, things get hard. And this morning we've been talking about communication because obviously if you look at statistics, you will see just how much communication is highlighted as one of probably the most likely to be the reason or the pinpointed reason for why things don't go well. So then we have to flip it on its head. If we are looking at how to do marriage as well, we have to work out how do we do it with an understanding that, if we communicate well, we are more likely to eliminate reasons for us to be wondering. I guess it really is just eliminating the reasons for us to have issues. If we are keeping that communication open, if we are talking things through, we are more likely to see that there's a fruitful marriage emerging, and it stays. Now, I want to just challenge again on that. I want to encourage you guys again. Learn how to communicate with your partner, with your spouse. If you are married, make sure you're aware of what means a lot to them. But then again, just being simply able to verbalize things and protect each other is a big part. Now, we talked about that a little bit before. But I want to encourage you now to just hold on to some scripture that I think really ties into ultimately how we are supposed to be doing things. If we are looking at marriage from a Christian perspective and we are trying to draw on that, we have a very simple way for us to understand how we should and can do things to make the whole process of marriage easier. Now, it's a very familiar verse, Ecclesiastes 4:12. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Now, the significance of this is obviously that if we look at marriage, there's the 3 different strands. There's the husband, the wife, and the third is obviously God. Now, what does that mean for communication? It means that the husband and the wife have to be willing to speak up. They have to be able to approach things together. They need to be able to acknowledge things and tie together and say, we're going to do this. When the tough stuff happens, they need to talk through it. They need to work out a plan together. They need time. They may need, and this is, I think, the beauty of, if we go back to the 5 love languages that I was talking about earlier today, the 5 love languages highlight, you could be speaking to your spouse in those ways where if you are hitting a hard time, if they're, your husband or your wife happens to be someone who's a words of affirmation type person, it may be a case of writing a little text and just saying, I see what you're doing here. I acknowledge it, and I think you're doing a great job. Even though we're going through some tough stuff, it's building each other up in that tough stuff. It may be a case of, hey, I'm having a rough time. I just need someone to just, sit here and play with my hair. I know that people often talk about like the kiss on the forehead and how special that is. And there's something so simple about it. But I think it's that acknowledgement. If you're someone who's a physical affection type of person, that would be the kind of thing that you might be needing from a spouse when the times aren't great. But they're also good for the times when things are good. Those little tools to know how to speak to our spouse. And this is communication. But when we go back to the 3 strands, if you look at that, it's all of that. It's knowing how to talk to your spouse. And it's also understanding the willingness of your spouse and yourself to keep moving things together, but to ensure that in all of it, God is interwoven into every decision, every conversation, every way of how do we get through the next stage? How do we get through this? And anyone who is married for a long time and has that faith will look at you and tell you quite directly, could not have done it without God. I know there's a couple that we had at Blacktown Baptist, and the first time when we first got there, I was in a really messy headspace because I just had a baby, so I had PTSD. It's not PTSD, sorry, that's another thing. Postnatal depression is actually what I was talking about. And we had just moved house. We were moving to a location that I was not overly, I wasn't cheering over. I was not in a good space, and it did cause issues because I was just kind of going, oh, here we go again. And one couple, they were so good to my husband and I, to Mike and I, and were just so encouraging. I think by that stage they'd probably been married for about, 50-something years, but the words that they spoke into us were just so encouraging because they reminded us that the hard stuff is the stuff when we invite God in that we actually see God interacting in. He teaches us how to communicate. He teaches us, how to do the tough stuff. And if we don't know how to do that, it's a good way for us to reflect and to work out. We can't do it on our own. If we are really going to do things well, if we are not going to look to how the world would do things, we need to look at each other. We need to remember to communicate to each other. And together, we need to sit before God and pray. We need to pull out that Bible and look at it together. We need to spend time observing God's movement, His hand in situations. We need to be thankful, to spend time with God in thanks and get ourselves in that right headspace so we can be appreciative of what He's actually doing. And we can stand together. The three chords get stronger. They get more and more interwoven to a point where that marriage can't do life without God. And I guess I just want to emphasize again, if you are somebody if you are in a marriage that has been going the distance, the words that you have to speak to others, to newer marriages, to marriages who are probably 20 years and they might be hitting that point where it's like, you look at the marriage cycle and you think, oh, there's different stages that can emerge. If you are somebody who's down the track and you've got some experience behind you, speak life into those who are still chipping away going, oh, how do we make this work? Be the encouragement that others need because you have no idea the impact of that. And I just want to encourage you in that. You've got some serious wisdom. So, yeah. But guys, that's the thing. I think communication is going to help, bring the strands together. So learn how to speak, drop the guard. Honestly, if it comes down to the pride, work out why you're feeling reserved about the things that you are. Why do you not want to speak to your spouse and psychologically challenge that? Emotionally challenge it. What would happen if you decided, I need to speak this out. I need to talk to my husband or my wife about this. We need to work on this together. I want to go the distance. What would happen if you did? If you put a different slant on it? And I think we'll go into it a little bit more, but I think how we say things goes a long way. So that's a big part of communication as well. I'm going to leave it there, guys, but we'll close things off in a little bit. But just being mindful, communication is going to take us it's going to take us a long way if we can learn how to do it well. All right, see you in a sec. Ecclesiastes 4:12, we read it before. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Good morning, guys, and welcome back to Rhema CC. I'm Lindy. I am your Sunday morning host here. It's a delight, and I want to say welcome to Sunday. Hope you're having a beautiful day. Hope it's not too chaotic out there for you. Hopefully you've got the cruisy sort of state of mind where you are sort of in that slow pace, but, chipping away at the next little step for the day. Yeah, we're well and truly into it now, almost the end of our time together, and it's always a delight. Guys, I just want to sort of recap what we've been talking about here this morning. We're talking marriage in the month of May. It's been Families Week here at Rhema CC, and it's a good way for us to focus on an aspect of I guess, the family. We're looking at marriage. Didn't happen that way. It wasn't an intentional thing. It just sort of fell into place for which I just sort of went, yeah, let's use May as marriage month. Today we've been talking specifically about communication. Now, I haven't gone into a huge amount of detail we haven't explored things, with a huge amount of depth, but just, explored a few different aspects of how we might do marriage better. And that certainly comes down to the fact that we have to be mindful of the things that are likely to go wrong in marriage. Now, number one, if you look at things from a statistical point of view, it's communication is a huge aspect of how things can start to go pear-shaped, which surprises me because I would think, if you look at, I haven't got the statistics, I did have the statistics in front of me, but I won't go into that. But I was looking at that and thinking, wow, I would have thought that other elements would have been number one, but in all, it looks like communication is a big deal. It's a deal breaker. It's one of those things that can make things really tricky, I guess, because it can trickle into other elements of the relationship too. And that's a big part of making sure communication is good. But certainly, guys, we have to be mindful of the fact that we can't do it without God. Obviously, we're emphasising here as a Christian radio station that, our understanding is that really in life there is no purpose other than, there is purpose, but I mean there's, if you look at trying to do things on our own, we just make the whole thing so much harder. When we have that faith, we have that understanding that God is in all things, in the great seasons and the seasons that aren't so wonderful, and that's certainly in the case of marriages. We have some days we wake up and think, oh my goodness, life is wonderful. And we have the other days where we just think, this is just, it might be flat, there might be just nothing happening. Or it just might be just plain, may just be heartache and hard work. But there's a seasonal thing, and God, if we put him in the centre of all of it, we're more likely to see things flow and flourish beautifully. I was very honest a little while ago. I mentioned to you guys that I have had to work on myself in how I communicate. I've had to learn how to be real with my husband. Now that sounds stupid from someone who has got all the training in how to do counselling with couples. I know how to do it for other people, but for myself, I did not realise that I had allowed this wall to come up because I was just, I was trying to protect myself, perhaps. I don't know what it was. I learnt to do a lot of things on my own. I learnt to handle things emotionally on my own. But in that, I realised that I was not it does impact your social, yes, it can actually. It can impact your social life too. It can impact your emotional and your psychological health. And I guess in turn, it can impact how much you interact with your spouse, but also beyond that, what you give to the world. So we have to challenge why we do the things we do. That's certainly part of how we become a better version of ourselves. And in communication, that's a big key. We've got to work out what's going wrong to be able to do things better, and then to communicate that. But it can be simple elements of, things like, listen, mate, I really appreciate, you've done this for me, but do you mind keeping an eye on, it could be, the washing or something. Together, just communicating the daily house tasks, what things need to be done, and how we're going to do that together. But again, I guess that there's that sense of thanks in that, recognizing again that we want to encourage and support each other. Communication in marriage can also be, there's just so many elements of communication, if we think about it, that can impact how we do marriage, but we have to be mindful of it as an overall thing. If we look at an umbrella of the different elements of our life and how we talk through the hard stuff, there may be aspects of finances that need to be communicated. Now that's a situation that, again, the situations vary from couple to couple. It may be intimacy, it may be how we interact with our children. It may be so many different things that we need to learn how to talk through, and that talking can look different from one person to the next. But we need to go there. We need to be willing to go there, and we need, if we are coming at it from a Christian perspective, we need to have those hard talks with each other. We need to have the hard talks with God. And it's a beautiful process. I speak on, in testament to that. I had a moment not that long ago, if we're talking honestly and I'm being open with you guys, quite happy to do that because that's just me. But I had a moment a few weeks ago where I realised, as I said this morning, that I needed to work on the communication. Now, we were in the shopping centre a few weeks ago and my husband said something and I just went, oh my goodness, I could stand here and cry in this shopping centre. It was nothing, absolutely nothing you would think of as going, how is it a trigger? But for me, I suddenly went, right, I got some stuff here I need to dump on my husband. So we walked out to the car, I sat there and cried, told him everything I needed to say, and I thought, I have held on to that for 20 years and I didn't even know. I didn't know that I've been trying to be so strong to, do things to protect him, protect our marriage, protect myself. And isn't that ridiculous when we think of the reasons that we think we're doing stuff? When we look at it, we go, oh, I was doing that for that. But if I just talked it through, guys, let's be a community who talk to our spouse. Let's be a community who get on top of the hard stuff, who, we dig deeper and we work out why we are exploring things the way that we are together. Let's let go of the shame, let's go of the pride, let's go of the need to protect, and instead be a community who obviously we are holding on to our spouse, but we are holding on to God and listening to him step by step by step too. He's going to do some big work if we can be listening to him together in our marriages. Obviously us as individuals, but as in our marriages. And for those of you who are not married, your prayers for those in your life who are married, the prayers for your parents if they're still married or if they're working through the tough stuff, those help. The prayers for the neighbours who are going through some tough stuff. Maybe they're juggling a million kids. Maybe they've had their first one and they're going, what do we do with a newborn? Those prayers, they go a long way. But I just want to encourage you, let's be a community that gets behind our marriages. Guys, it has been a delight again. I'm going to get out of here. It's been a beautiful morning. I hope you have got some things to think about when it comes to communication. But we'll see you again next week. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Have a super duper one and I'll see you then.